apparently to claim his first gold medal of the season in 2015 World Triathlon Series in Yokohama. But the hunger that had to exist in people's hearts to push themselves, I would have given up a long time ago. I've done some park runs, and as I already told you, I'm pretty rubbish anyway, so there's nothing to compete for. But you're just coming into the last 200 metres, and people suddenly can start to sprint and overtake you. To be honest, I'll get out of the way and let them go by. It's fine. It's just, it really annoys my son, my brother-in-law actually, because he's really into his sport. But I do these cycling events, and I arrange to meet Angela for breakfast or for lunch or something like that. I'm gonna, because it's much more fun. It's just part of the occasion. I'm not really into the speed or anything like that, probably because I can't anyway. But I was reading, and what really stood out to me, and I'm going to read this from the Message version, but it says in 1 Corinthians 9:24-25, you've all been to the stadium and seen the athletes race. Everyone runs, one wins. Run to win. All good athletes train hard. They do it for a gold medal that tarnishes and fades. You're after one that's gold eternally. Just think about it for a moment. We can, let's say for instance, I'm the best at something in the world. And by the way, there's a lot of this talk, isn't there? They call it the GOAT, don't they? The greatest of all time. They're always talking about the GOAT. Who is the greatest of all time? Well, really, it doesn't really matter. Because at the end of time, they're all going to die anyway. And I don't mean it rudely, but, there's a 100% death rate, in all of this. And surely, it's what is eternal. All this stuff, all these things that we kind of treasure, all this money that we treasure, it's just probably a little bit of a hobby horse, really. So be careful I don't go on about it, really. But when I was a boy, you used to see these, like the high performance cars, like BMWs, Mercedes, and things like that. And if you saw one, or a Land Rover or something like that, one of these, they're 2 a penny. I'm trying to think how much they cost. In terms of the cost and things like that, we fill ourselves up on stuff so much. Anyway, that's and we get ourselves so into debt. Huge. What do we long for? What do we hunger? What do we really hunger for? Matthew 5, verse 6 from the NIV says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. There's a little bit that goes on afterwards, the next 3 verses that actually says in there. It talks about merciful, so it's a bit of a clue really what it means to be righteous, that to seek righteousness. It's about being merciful. It's about being pure in heart. And it's also being about peacemaker. So blessed are those who hunger to be merciful. Blessed are those who hunger for purity of heart. Blessed are those who hunger for making peace. So there's a real sense of hungering for righteousness. And righteousness, it's a funny word, isn't it? If I was to say, what does righteousness mean? I wonder how many of you will be able to tell me what it means. Because if you can, could you tell me? Because I'm not always sure, really, myself, actually. It's not a word that we use quite readily, really, or anything like that. But it just seems, it's a funny word, isn't it? But righteousness, what does it mean to be righteous? I'm assuming, and I think it means something about a right kind of life. The way in which we live out our lives. So in other words, there is holiness, there is that purity, we will be peacemakers. There will be oodles of kindness in abundance. There would be, selflessness rather than selfishness. There'll be a real sense of wanting God more than ourselves. As I say, what are you hungry for? When I think about this, sometimes in a prayer time, someone might say, it'd be really good to know, what do we long for? And I think to myself, as I look around Haverhill, the things that I really long for in our culture, in our day, it might sound daft really, but I long for the day where we can just ring up and get a doctor's appointment. But seriously, and actually get to see a doctor just like that. Where that if you need an operation, you haven't got to pay privately. And I'm not saying that in any kind of political way or anything. That's not what I mean at all. But the day when I was a boy and I got pneumonia when I was a child, my next door neighbour was the ambulance driver. So in the late 60s, early 70s. And he used to take the ambulance home, to come home for his lunch in his ambulance and then go off. And I remember he came and picked me up and carried me out in the ambulance that went to the hospital. And don't laugh, but it was Mr. and Mrs. Green, the greengrocers, who picked me up from hospital. They had the shop across the road. They took my mum. We had a corner shop we used to go to, and it all seems to have gone, doesn't it? We seem to live in a really fragmented society. If you ring up and want to speak to somebody about something, the amount of queues you have to go through, this is trivial, I realise, but it's a symptom, if you like, of our society. Press this, press that, what do you want? I don't know. Oh my goodness me, sometimes getting hold of it really. I had to change my Vodafone contract. I don't do such things, and my colleague does it for me. But it took 4 hours to change the phone. And I said to the person, I said, no wonder there's so much mental health around when we have to deal with people like you. This is crazy. Crazy stuff. For goodness sake, it's a flipping phone. That's all it is. I did enter into the flesh a little bit, I'm afraid, on that one. But, but I long to see more kindness expressed in people. It's almost like on the roads, there's a real sense. It's like a battle out there at times. Everything just seems to be so competitive, and that's why I like going on the canal, because you can't go any more than 3 miles per hour. We didn't even go that fast, but you really can't. And I think that Jesus actually moved at 3 miles per hour. He walked everywhere. He didn't have a horse. Obviously things were different. And maybe it is the speed of God, 3 miles per hour. That kind of slowing things down that actually says, and actually being, the things that are important. I'll get to what I really want to get to say, but let justice roll on like a river. This is what Amos says. Righteousness like a never-failing stream. I don't know about you, but I do look around and I just feel that something isn't quite right. We're a bit out of kilter in our nation. There's something that's seriously not right. And again, I don't wish to be political or anything like that, so I'm not making any comments, about the current government or anything, but it does seem to be in a muddle. Integrity and honesty just seem to be not quite so important anymore. Our media is obsessed with sensationalism and these kind of, I'll say superlatives, some people say superlatives, but you get my gist. It's the hottest June this year on record. It's the wettest July on record. You know, as far as I'm aware, it's just an ordinary British summer, folks. Come on. You know, just get on with it. You know, just, you know, in England, if you're going to go out somewhere, take your coat and umbrella. You know, it's kind of what it is. You know, 4 seasons in a day here. But it's the reality of it. And yet, you know, everything seems to be the biggest and the best, and we've got to be the biggest. We've got to be the best. Why not ordinary? Why not just, what's wrong with being just something which is ordinary? Just something is normal. I long for just that simple lifestyle. You know, what do I enjoy most? When people say, what are you going to do on your holiday? And I think, I'm going to sit in the garden. Yeah, I enjoy sitting in the garden. Yeah, just simple things. I do like still going out on my, Angela calls it a lycra bike, but anyway, you get my gist. It's a road bike, it's a racing bike, but I don't go fast. I stop, I let the traffic go by, I stop, and I get a bit of a sore back anyway, so I have to rest my back anyway, but you know, it's just nice, isn't it? Yeah. It appears to be all about money. I was just reading something yesterday, just about there's this thing called a Saudi Pro League. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'd never heard of it until I read it yesterday. And some of our footballers from the Premier League are going to join. I think it's this next year or something like that. And it's something like £700,000 a week. How much does one need? Especially when you're all going to die anyway. I mean, how much does Elon Musk actually need? He's never going to spend it all. I think if he took all his money out and put it into dollars, it probably might actually fill this room. I mean, you just can't spend it all. It could do so much more good. And when you think that today, 800 children will die because of poor water quality in the world, something seems wrong, doesn't it? Yeah, something's not right. See, we have record numbers of abortions in England in 2021. It's never been so high. And I'm sorry if I tread on toes here when I say this, but 214,259 abortions were carried out in England and Wales in 2021. Is that okay? Every single day of 2021, every single day, 587 little babies were aborted. By the way, 2021 was the worst year ever worst year in the pandemic for deaths. 78,128. 215,000 abortions in 2021. I read something last year that says this: no society is ever entirely upright or godly. There are always evil people in it. But in a well-functioning society, the evil are suppressed, and those of good character are prominent and rule the land. In times of moral breakdown, this is inverted. Written by a chap called Boyce. I don't know when he wrote it, but I just thought that really resonated with me. And that was last year, early part of last year. And just thinking, God, we need you to act. We so need God to act again. We need him to come down. We really do need that move of God, that we should just stir people's hearts and stir them up. We have this desire, this almost wish for, it's so selfish out there. One of the reasons I'm reading Psalm 27:13, because at times I think, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Do you know, they say that in the 1800s, maybe even in the late 1700s, we could have easily gone the way of France with a revolution if it hadn't been for John Wesley. There's a man who decided to get up and actually do something about it because something wasn't right in the nation and wanted to go and do something because it just wasn't happening. We've become obsessed with some kind of religiousness and it just doesn't seem right. I went to a wedding in Yorkshire at the beginning of July, and I went with, it was Emmanuel's family, so the bride was Romanian, so we went to support Nicola, our daughter, and her husband, and we stood there getting some fish and chips, or pizzas, that's what it was, and see all the young people, and Nicola says, I sometimes fear for what it might be like for Lydia when she grows up. And I thought, yeah, I know what you mean. And I think sometimes, what do we want for our children and grandchildren? But you know, at the wedding, it was a Christian wedding, there were so many young men and women of faith who really had a real passion for Jesus. And you think, yeah, it can be. And that's what's needed, isn't it? It's when, I can't remember the phrase, is it something like about good people do nothing or something along those lines? You probably heard it before, it's an old thing, but the evil kind of grows and thrives, flourishes, whatever you want to call it, when good people do nothing. We have so much to offer. We have so much that we can give. But how hungry are we for it? Because it's costly. It's costly to get in there and save lives because we look stupid. It's difficult when we've got to speak up for Jesus, when we've got to be somebody a little bit different. But we really do need God. But how hungry are we for it? I suppose really the big question which I've highlighted in black is, what are we going to do about it? You see the trouble we're in as a nation. You don't need me to tell you any of this stuff. You've only got to look out yourself. We could pretend it's okay, but God, we need God to act. We really do need God to act. Because I believe with all my heart that 2 Chronicles even, 7:14 is a message to the church. And it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Do you know, there's probably lots of things that are already going on, and it's great. But I just flagged this up. I just feel that God's been speaking to me about this for quite some time. And I felt it was right to share this today. And, and as I was saying to a colleague or a chap who I've been speaking to about this, I said, if God is speaking to me about this, I can almost guarantee, because I'm ordinary, there's nothing special about me, I can almost guarantee that God is speaking to some of you here about this, and you're already feeling, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this? This isn't right. What are we going to do? I came across this, and I really realise I'm way out of time. I came across this song last year. I don't go to the all-party parliamentary breakfast. I join online because you can since the virus and stuff like that. But I came across a chap who I used to take photographs of many years ago, who was Andy Flanagan, who was leading the worship. I thought, goodness me, doesn't he look old? Don't I look old? And he did this song, and it's called We Seek Your Kingdom. And they did this in Parliament. It was also the time when Les Isaacs spoke. He spoke about integrity in governments. And then there was this cello played afterwards. It was the most beautiful piece of music. It was like 7 minutes of this piece of music played. And the day after, Sajid David resigned, as did Rishi Sunak. And within a couple of days of that parliamentary prayer breakfast, the current government at the time had collapsed. We seek your kingdom. We need God to act in our day. We really do. But are we hungry? Are we hungry and thirsting for it? I'm going to finish with this song, We Seek Your Kingdom.